Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June 8th, 2026 briefing for Indigenous focused disaster and emergency management. We do these briefings. We had a couple days off last week, Thursday and Friday, but we're back today, June the 6th, to conduct our information that is gathered from publicly available sources, APTN, Indigenous CBC, community news sites and social media, especially up in Nunavut. They've got quite a bit of outlets up there. And yeah, we'll be going over our full daily Canada emergency situation report. And if you want a copy of this, as always, you can get it right now at app.hazardscape.com. This is what it looks like. You can download it in a Word document and use it for your own purposes, however you feel. If you need to brief your own leadership or your own team, you can head over to the app right now and get that. And if you want it emailed to you, just let me know. You can message me at support@hazardscape.com and get a Word copy sent to you every morning through email, so it shows up in your inbox every morning. And I also want to start off today by saying thank you, because we could not make these situation reports available, and we could not make our new community emergency management training available, which again, you can get on the app right now and get your certificate if you want it. It's for Indigenous Emergency Management coordinators across Canada who want a certificate in basic emergency management, because right now that is all currently sponsored by Indigenous owned All About Abatement. They do mold, lead, asbestos, any hazardous material. They do assessments, they do a removal, they do interior demolitions. They also remove these other toxins here, which I'm going to bring up the list: organic liquids, chemical waste, oils, fats, greases, contaminated materials, scrap wood, paint, waste. And if you want to learn about their process and how Kyle Davidson, he's an Indigenous entrepreneur, is moving All About Abatement forward, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see a podcast site tour that I did of All About Abatement, and you can learn about all of their work and everything that he's doing out of Edmonton and across the country. So thank you to All About Abatement and Kyle and his team for sponsoring our daily situation briefs and our training. And I also want to thank Premier Fire and Flood. So Darcy and Riley at Premier Fire and Flood, they sponsor our lives and our training too as part of their reconciliation strategy. They have offices in Edmonton, Calgary, Whitecourt, and Saskatoon. They do everything from water damage, fire damage, disaster restoration, even vandalism. And they also do diagnostic services. So checking for mold, checking for water, checking for damp spots, checking for smoke contamination that might be in attics, upper rafters, even in HVAC systems. So they do fantastic work. They've got a 50-foot trailer that is staged in Edmonton and ready to deploy to any small remote community that needs restoration equipment following floods and fires. So thank you to Premier Fire and Flood for sponsoring these briefings and our training as we move forward in developing 1,000 new Indigenous emergency management coordinators across Canada. So where we'll start is just within the summer. In the summary, Matagami First Nation declared a state of emergency and evacuation order that was effective June 2nd due to their wildfires near them, and the Timmins 9 fires grown to just over 3,100 hectares. That was confirmed today off the Canadian Wildfire Information System, which we'll take a look at shortly. Weenusk First Nation declared a state of emergency as well and evacuated due to a wildfire. As of June 6, 63 evacuees are in Thunder Bay, and the state of emergency has not been lifted. Prairie regions hold the most critical national wildfire picture today with 47 active fires, including 25 out of control. And we'll go over that map as well. And then there was the shooting in Pelican Narrows. That happened on June 1st. That was a terrible event, and our hearts go out to that community because they've had a very difficult time as well, even with their wildfire evacuations last year, and now this is going on, and they're still searching for the suspect. Minister Mandigo Masti is committed to introduce First Nations clean water legislation no later than June 19th. So we will be watching that and maintaining some awareness and updating those events in this briefing. And then there's still an active and serious threat of rabies in Nunavut, in this community, which I'm going to forget how to say again, but you can read it on the screen here. Sorry about that, to that community. So let's get into first taking a look at special weather statements. So we do have some Environment Canada special weather statements up here in northern Alberta, Saskatchewan. That's where there is still heavy rain forecasted, and we'll go look at the radar following our briefing. So that's about 80 to 90 mils are expected. We'll also review the flood map here shortly. And then we've got a heat warning again in Ontario, and we'll see how that's affecting the wildfire situation. They're going to be in between 29 to 31 degrees today. And then over in Newfoundland, we have, looks like frost advisory that's going on there, probably for much of the morning. So if you're in those areas, keep your gardens covered, and hopefully you'll get to gardening soon. And then over here near Rankin region, rainfall warning. So they're expecting 20 to 40 mils of rain here, and the ground has a reduced ability to absorb rainfall. So water will likely pool on roads, and in low-lying areas, visibility will be suddenly reduced at times. So keep an eye on these areas that have received special weather warnings today. And we're going to go into everything in detail right now. So flood, especially again up where they've got that rain warning, this has been escalating over the last few days. So looking around Fort McMurray, where's my little handy map here? There we go. If we look at Janvier, again, they're starting to peak again. Those water levels just kind of, they go up and down, up and down. You see they were at the beginning of the month getting down to that warning level, but now they're back up into extreme levels with all the rain that we've had. And then even in Saskatchewan here, just east of Preston Lake, they're going to be well above the extreme levels there, as well as rivers and creeks start to peak from all the rain we've had. And they've got, again, another rain warning. So just stay alert, especially here around Fort Resolution on the Slave River. Again, everything's draining into the Great Slave Lake at extreme levels. So always a good idea to kind of keep watch of that. Looks like things around the Mackenzie from spring melt and runoff is starting to die down. But again, if we take a look at where the extreme weather conditions are going to be in terms of precipitation for Alberta, Saskatchewan, butted up against where we're seeing some of that flooding, we're going to see a little bit more there, even around this part of Alberta, Saskatchewan. What river is that there? I don't know which river that is. It's probably just a small creek. See if we can identify it. I'd have to look on a different map for that one. But even there, it's going to be peaking in about 9 hours. So yeah, still some flood warnings going on and some extreme water based on the precipitation that we're getting. And then across the country, drying up in Ontario here, where they're getting some of those heat warnings, and then just a little bit of high water table, or I don't know why this one doesn't bring me up to a map, but it's flagging as extreme. So let's see here. Is it going to give me anything? Not sure why that's not working. All right, well, we'll just leave it. So those are areas you want to check your local news reports for and watch what's going on. All right, let's flip over to the wildfire danger. So this is the outlook for Canada as of today. You can see where Alberta is and Saskatchewan have received a lot of that precipitation, and Manitoba as well over the last week. And we knew that those areas would, the fire danger would decrease for those regions. But BC, Southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, and into Quebec and Labrador, even Atlantic Canada, Southern Ontario, maintaining that moderate to high and in some places extreme fire danger. We flip over to the wildfire index. Same kind of story, but this is just an indicator of if a fire were to break out in any of these areas, how quickly they would spread. So fires could still break out into the blue, even though it's low, but they would likely not move too quickly compared to the places that are in that kind of yellowish to dark tan to red. So as we move forward this week, we'll take a look at the weather and where the precipitation is focused. And you just want to stay attuned that if you're in any of the regions here that are in that dark red to the yellow, you've got a bit of a higher risk of fires starting and moving quite quickly compared to the blue, where fires can still start, but they may not travel or blow up as fast as they would if it was, better conditions for a wildfire, such as drier surface area or drier surface, lower humidity, more wind, and some heat. But taking a look at the temperatures for today. So as of right now, 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, we're already hitting 26 in Kashkuan First Nation, 25 in Shamatawa, Southern Ontario as well, 22, 20. So even into Quebec and that part of Labrador. So that's what is causing you can see where that heat is continuing to keep the fire risk high. BC today looks like a little bit cooler temperatures, but Fort Nelson, High Level, Grand Prairie into Wrigley, Northwest Territories, obviously going to be a little bit warmer right now. But as we let's go to look at about 4 o'clock today. So by 4 p.m. this afternoon, let's just go one down to about 3 p.m. Like you can see 30, Fort Severn 29, Big Trout Lake 21. You can see where it's going to be really hot. And then Manitoba is going to warm up around Thompson, even Lynn Lake, 28 in Winnipeg. So as far as fire danger, that is just going to mean that parts of Manitoba where it's going to be really warm, that is going to start to dry out. Southern Saskatchewan and Alberta will continue in those regions to warm up. We'll start to see a little bit of this blue maybe flipping over to yellow, but we're going to look at precipitation quick and just see what that story looks like. So if we go, we'll go over to rain and thunder on the radar. We've got some storms occurring up just in the Nunavut area here. That's where that storm is likely going to move and is causing that precipitation accumulation in the Rankin region, but not much rain forecasted for much of the other parts of the country. Maybe a little bit of a storm Tuesday evening through Manitoba. Probably just going to see a lot of thunder showers and quick rains. Now that the grounds, now that we've had all that precipitation in the prairies, that, getting with the heat, that humidity and that evaporation is what really can cause the thunder showers to come in. As all the water and on the surface, on the ground levels evaporate, we'll start to see some more thunder activity, thunder shower activity, probably in those areas. So let's take a look. We'll look at thunderstorms here for the week. Moving along. This is playing out to Monday night. Heading into overnight Tuesday, not much activity forecasted. Maybe a little bit of activity in southern Saskatchewan by Tuesday afternoon. Got a big storm there moving up into Manitoba Tuesday night. And with all of this, it can bring lightning. So that's the fire risk there, is as those storms progress. This is now Wednesday. I'll pause it there. It looks like forecasted Wednesday afternoon, about 1 p.m. so far. You can see getting into Ontario, you know, some thunder showers or storms predicted there. They'll probably bring some lightning in those very dry areas where we could see some more fire starts. Moving into Thursday, 1 a.m., not much. So this is just the week. Going into Thursday afternoon, we've got some activity. Bit of storming Thursday evening in Alberta there. So you can kind of see there is going to be some activity forecasted for this week, which is going to bring some lightning. It's going to bring a bit of rain, but probably really what that's going to result in more is just some more fire startup. So if we look at, you know, the fire start map for currently, you can see where, again, things are starting to kind of cluster in Manitoba. There's been some starts yesterday afternoon. Over here in the west part of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, the Kayford fire, which is now out of control, still being reported. That's grown a couple thousand hectares over the weekend. And then we're getting into these larger fires, the SLK fire and the red fire. Plus, this is called the dry fire. And then here's where the Timmins fire is in Ontario. That's the 31 hectares. So a lot of new fire starts. Kind of, they're all staying in this, you know, diagonal belt between the Northwest Territories, the northeast part of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba down here. That is really just where a lot of that heat events were, like over the last week. And you can kind of see even here, you know, where that heat is sticking around in that diagonal. And that's really what's driving a lot of those new starts. Plus, with the risk of lightning and the dry surfaces, you're going to see probably some more activity and starts, especially as things dry out again and the fire danger increases. So that's what we're looking at currently, and where things are going to head for the week. I would say overall, if you want to, you know, stay focused in on the week, expect by, again, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. Let's see what Thursday, Friday, into Saturday. Really hot for this week in the East, Ontario, Quebec, in parts of Labrador. That's where we're going to see that fire risk really start to escalate, and probably that yellow to lighter tan right now is going to move into that extreme. But I think what's holding that off in Ontario is they did get a lot of precipitation in early May, which has helped, but there's obviously the fire danger with that heat is going to increase. So that'll be the high risk parts of the country, and Manitoba. We'll see how Alberta, northern Saskatchewan shape up this week, given that they're going to start to see some warmer temperatures and probably not as much precipitation. What else have we not looked at here? Probably not too much. Yeah, so going back to our reporting again, if you want to download this daily report, you can grab it off app.hazardscape.com. It comes out every day between 7:30 and 8 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Alberta time. We list all of the new starts and then kind of any of the, well, that's one thing we didn't check. Let's check the fire smoke map. So Ontario, this is kind of moving it through today. Going to be a little bit of smoke. We are starting to see it increase with those fires, a little bit more activity. You kind of see how it's moving here. I'll pause it here because there's going to be this big plume is going to be moving around Northern Ontario. And then we've got pockets in Ontario or Manitoba, a little bit in Alberta. I mean, at the end of the day, it's relatively tame as far as fire smoke goes. It looks like it's, you're not seeing those dark red patches. It's kind of staying in the 1 to 10, maybe 15 parts per million. So not horrible, but not great either. So just stay vigilant if any of those areas. Yeah, you can grab all of this off your copy of the situation report if you like. I don't go through too much of it in detail. I usually stick to the summary and watching some of the bigger, higher risk events that are going on these lives. But also, if you want all of the data, the links to all of these maps and all of these resources, whether it's the flood, the fire, even the weather alert map, again, you can go to our resource library and you can get all of the links and all of the information to that on our resource library, along with the SITREP and our courses. We've also added the learning articles. This is new. So if you go into the learning library, we've got all of our articles for all of the different roles and responsibilities within an emergency management team or an emergency operations center. So you can kind of head over there now, and if you want to take a look, you can even write job descriptions from all of those. That's in our learning library, learning articles. And that's also where you can get your digital certificate if you complete the course, and you get your digital badge so you can share that with your employer. And you get a printed out certificate. So once again, this is all made possible through our sponsorship. Kyle Davidson, he's an Indigenous entrepreneur. He owns All About Abatement. They're sponsoring these daily situation briefs along with our training and certificate program. So you can get all of this at no cost through their sponsorship through this summer. So if you're looking to get your basic emergency management certificate for it's an Indigenous focus certificate, you can grab that now at no cost. And also thank you to Premier Flood and Fire and Flood for their sponsorship as well. Through their reconciliation strategy, they are sponsoring our training and our situation reports and making sure that, on reserve, off reserve, any Indigenous community across Canada gets the support and treatment they need as they restore from fire and water damage, even vandalism, and they can do diagnostic testing for leak detection and loss assessment and quantification. So other than that, the only other announcement that we've got coming up here is we're going to be advancing our mesh network, so emergency communications and our environmental monitoring. You can follow along on our TikTok, and I'll be doing some YouTube videos for that. So stick along if you're looking for small community emergency communications where you don't need power, cell service, Wi-Fi, anything like that. I'll be going through the network we're setting up and the portable weather station that you can develop yourself to monitor air particulate in the air, humidity, barometric pressure, temperature, everything like that on a free mesh node network. That if your community loses power, cell service, or internet, you're still able to text family and staff on your phone through Bluetooth and through a node system that doesn't require any kind of connectivity other than Bluetooth to your phone. And they're all very small, so they're not they're tiny little gadgets and don't take up a lot of room, and they work on solar and rechargeable batteries, so you can keep your connectivity going all the time. Okay, that's it. Thanks for everyone. I'll see you tomorrow morning with the next daily briefing. And as always, know your hazardscape and stay prepared.